All right.
All
So as I mentioned before, this is my business partner, co-founder of Invizio, Kyle Hurst, and he'll be working with us today in the workshop portion. He's gonna get started in just a second. But a few housekeeping notes. I know everyone got a card on the way in that said to log on to invizio.com/cracking the code. You should be able to actually see the presentation, not only on the screen, but on your laptop as we go through it. So make sure you do that. Throughout the day, as in while we're conducting this workshop, we'll be taking some of your questions interactively. So if you have Twitter, hop on to Twitter. You can send us a question or comment at Invizio, so twitter.com/Invizio. You can also go to Facebook and like us, and then from there you can comment on our wall just to submit any questions or concerns you have. But we have a pretty good crowd here today, and I think that we'll be able to have a good amount of interaction. So Kyle, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. All right. Everybody can hear me okay? Yes? Excellent. Like Kevin said, my name is Kyle Hurst. I am the CTO and IT Solutions Consultant with Invizio. And I wanted to start with what we deem is the most important concept in small business IT. As you see on the screen, it says disaster recovery, big scary title. But essentially what that means is, it means making sure that your company, there we go, stays running in the event of the unforeseen. For larger businesses, disaster recovery is extremely complex. It involves levels and levels of management, planning, and all of that. But for small businesses, luckily, it's a lot easier. Let's see what we have here. Technical definition. Processes related to preparing for recovery of your IT infrastructure, which pretty much means you can get up and running quickly. Now, I'm assuming that you all have very critical, important information that your company will not survive without. I'm sure you can think of that one file or that one folder that if you didn't have it, you're sunk. So you want to protect it. Here's some numbers. A company called Carbonite provides online backup service. They did a survey this year where they found that of American small businesses, at least 49% have experienced some kind of data loss. 49%. Here's another number. 93%. 93% of all businesses that experience some kind of critical data loss for at least 10 days will file for bankruptcy within a year of that event. File for bankruptcy, 93%. So if something happens and you can't access your data for about 10 days, chances are you're finished. The business is done. And 50% of those companies that go out of business will do so within the month that the incident happens. So they might not even make it until that next year. It's a big number. 140,000. 140,000 hard drives crash every single year. Now, you guys have your laptops with you. All your laptops have hard drives in them. I want to put this in another type of perspective for you. We're here, we're at an event. I've been talking for about 5-10 minutes or so. That number, 140,000, equates to 4 hard drives crashing every 15 minutes. Here's something else. Data loss, in general, for small businesses, happens because of a stolen or lost laptop. Almost all the time. So I want you to keep that in mind when you think of, well, is this something important for my business? You're probably thinking, yes, it's important for my business. Of course it is. But what do we do about it? How do you actually solve this problem? Well, we've been working with small businesses for a couple of years now, and we've come up with what we think is a pretty good solution. Most small businesses that don't have any kind of data backup cite cost as the #1 reason. So the solution, your strategy, if you will, has to have 2 components. First component, obviously, it needs to be affordable. can't cost you stacks and stacks of money. Small businesses don't have that type of budget to waste, if you will. And the second thing is that it needs to be easy. It needs to be something that you set and forget, if you will. You know it's running, you can have that type of peace of mind. This is where, if you're taking notes, I want you to take notes. Because this is what you need to remember about this section in general. Your data is not backed up if you're copying it to a USB key at the end of the day or at the end of the week or something like that. That's not a backup. You just happen to have a copy. Backup means that you have at least 3 copies. The first copy is your original copy. Second copy is your actual backup, something that's running on a day-to-day basis automatically. And then you also have to make sure that you have an offsite backup. Now, why do you need an offsite backup? Well, number one, we're in Miami. We're prone to tropical storms and hurricanes. And I've actually had conversations with small businesses where they've lost access to their office for up to 2 weeks after a tropical storm or hurricane. 2 weeks, can't access the data. Some cases, can't access your email. Not good. You need to make sure that you can get your data from wherever it may be in the event of some kind of disaster. God forbid something actually happens to your office. Spoke to another client where they literally had a fire in their building. And they could have lost the server that had the information on it and whatever backup they were running that's right next to the server. So those are the reasons that you want to make sure that one of your backups is not with the rest of your data. It has to be somewhere else, somewhere safe. And nowadays, use cloud providers. All right. Backup has to be automatic. You don't want to be running it yourself. You're going to forget one day. You're going to forget to take the tape home or switch the hard drives or something like that. So whatever solution you come up with needs to be a solution that just kind of runs by itself. You don't have to worry about it. Now, you might not set it up yourself. Maybe you'll have your IT provider do it for you. But whatever it is, you need to make sure that it's always running in the background. Don't have to think about it. And occasionally you check to make sure everything's okay. So typically, small businesses are set up in one of 2 ways. The first way is that you have a server where all your information is, and you have PCs connected to those servers. And the other way, for some smaller companies or maybe companies who don't have physical space, is you just have a bunch of laptops or computers. So let's go through these 2 typical scenarios and figure out, well, how do I back up? How does backup relate to me depending on how my business IT is set up? So in the first case, you have a server that's in the office or something like that. You want to make sure that your server is your central hub. All the important data is going to it. Data from the PCs is going to it. So you know that that's the one thing that you need to make sure is backed up. Typically, send all the PC data to the server. You back up the server locally so that in the event something actually happens to the server, you can recover that data quickly on site. And like I said, you have to have your safety net, your offsite backup. So you also back up your server online to the cloud. Now let's say this doesn't apply to you. You just have a couple of PCs, and each person has individual important data on those computers or laptops. It's not a problem. There are services these days that allow you to have continuous backup to the cloud. So your data automatically is off-site because it's not where your laptop is. And it happens anytime you're connected to the internet. Everybody with me so far? Yes. Did I lose anybody? We can go back. We have time. No? Okay. So essentially, I feel like I missed the slide. Essentially, what we need to remember is that, 1, you need to make sure you have some kind of backup strategy. Number 2, it needs to be automatic. Don't want to have to think about it. And the last thing, 3 copies. At least 3 copies. Your original, your backup, and another backup off-site. That's what you want to remember about disaster recovery in terms of your small business. Questions? Anybody not understand anything? You have a question? Great.
So what you're saying is that I guess most people have pretty much the first 2, the original, their copy that they save on their hard drive or on the flash drive, and I think probably what we're trying to move more towards now is having that cloud backup. That's the automatic one.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be cloud. Did everyone hear the question, by the way? Okay, so what she's asking actually is, she's saying that typically what we have right now is, you have your server or your data in the office, and then you have your backup that's right next to it, right? And so we're moving some of that data to the cloud, essentially, as your offsite backup. And for the most part, that's true. And in recent years gone by, if you will, what would happen is people would actually do offsite backup. This is not a new concept by any stretch of the imagination. But what would normally happen is that you'd have some kind of tape running, and you'd have to go in every day and switch the tape. You'd have to put the Monday tape in and then put the Tuesday tape in, and you'd take the tape home in the afternoon and you'd bring back the next one in the morning, and that type of thing. And that used to work fine, but the issue is that we're human, we make mistakes, we forget. And so the reason why having that automatic offsite cloud backup, if you will, is so that you don't have to remember that. It's one less thing for you to worry about as a business owner or a manager. The other thing I like to mention is that you don't necessarily have to back up offsite just randomly to the internet. There are actually services that allow you to back up to another computer you own in a different location. So let's say you run a fairly small business, you're running your backups in the office. There are actually services that will allow you to connect your office server, if you will, to your PC at home and kind of back it up that way. So it's using the internet to get the data there, but it's not using somebody else's storage or servers or something like that. The data literally resides in your control on your computer.
Okay. What was your name, by the way? I'm sorry?
My name?
Yeah.
Michelle Morgan.
Michelle is a very good question. Kyle, do you want to just mention maybe a few backup providers that they may want to consider?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for online backup, for small businesses, you actually have a couple of choices. A simple Google search will reveal a lot. I'll tell you a few that I've used personally that I would recommend, that I trust. One that I mentioned already is Carbonite. C-A-R, Carbo, B-O-N-I-T-E, Carbonite. Another is actually a company called Crash Plan, which is a very apt name if you think about it. It's planning for any event that you have some kind of crash. It's crashplan.com. And they're actually the provider that I was talking about that lets you actually back up to PCs you own in different locations. And then the last one that I'd mention is Backblaze. And the great thing about most of these providers is that they give you unlimited backup capacity. So it doesn't really matter how much data you have. It's not like you pay, depending on how many files you have. It's a flat rate, normally paid per month or per year, and you get backup that way. Yes? The last name, Backblaze. So yeah, B-A-C-K-B-L-A-Z-E, Backblaze. Question?
If you do utilize a backup, like online backup,
Mm-hmm.
how secure is your data?
That's a really good question. I'm so glad you asked that. So, your data is typically secured using industry standard encryption, which pretty much means that while it's leaving your computer and going to the providers, it's encrypted in a way that people can't see what the data is. That's the first part. The second part is when they store your data on their servers, it's also encrypted, all right? So let's say somebody hacked into their servers, it's encrypted in a way that they pretty much just get gibberish, Some providers, Carbonite is one definitely, Backblaze as well, and CrashPlan, if not mistaken, offer you the ability to actually set your own encryption password. And what that does is that if you set your own encryption password for storing your data, on their servers or in their cloud, they can't even access your data. So, you know, if you forgot your password and you said, hey, I really need to get my data back, they wouldn't even be able to help you because it's encrypted in such a way that only you have the key. All right? Question.
What about Dropbox?
Dropbox, that's fine. Dropbox, just for anybody who doesn't know what Dropbox is, it's a service that allows you to, it gives you online data storage. A folder is on your computer. You drop files into that folder, it automatically uploads it to the cloud. What's great about it, it's really easy to share a file. So if you're working with a team, actually Invizio uses it for collaboration. It's really easy to, I'll drop a file in there and my business partner can grab the file in 2 minutes after. The thing about Dropbox is actually not a backup solution. And the reason I'd say it's not a backup solution is, number one, it's not really encrypted in any kind of meaningful way. Like, you can't set your own encryption on it. The other thing is that it doesn't provide you with any kind of revisions, if you will. So most backup solutions will allow you to actually go back. Actually, no, that's not true. Dropbox does actually give you revisions. Yeah, that's not true.
I think probably the point that you want to make is that Dropbox does not provide some of the things that Kyle mentioned before, sort of that continuous automatic backup. And it's limited to the information that you decide to put there. So if there's a file or a folder that is outside of your Dropbox, then it won't get backed up, and that might be important to you. So I think that's one key point.
And I think the last thing I want to mention about Dropbox is that cost-wise, it's not competitive with regular backup products. Like I said, most of the products that I mentioned offer you unlimited storage for typically about $60 a year. Whereas Dropbox's cost per gigabyte is way more than that. You could spend hundreds of dollars per year to get 50 gigs of data. Dropbox, like I said, it's not a backup tool more than it's a great collaboration tool for just sharing files among team members. And right now, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin because I think we've kind of run out of backup time. Anybody? Quick, last one.
I tried using Carbon for backup. I'm using tons.
Right.
And when I looked into it, they were going to send you a box.
A hard drive, yeah.
And that was only like a few hundred gigs. Is there a service that's limitless as to what you can back up?
Well, the thing okay, so really, that's a little technical, but essentially what happens is that when you back up to these services, like I said, they let you back up unlimited. And typically, they let you download it by yourself as well, all right? One of the ways that they make their money is that they assume that if you back something up, if it gets to the point where you want to download something, it's probably an emergency. And you probably want that data right now or tomorrow. And you can't wait the couple of days it's going to take for you to download it again. So they normally offer a service where they'll send you your data on a hard drive. They'll like overnight it, for an additional cost, $100, $50, or something like that. And you can get your data back very quickly, all right? And so I think the reason why it's limited in that respect is that they don't expect you to grab for all of your data at one time in that type of emergency situation. They would expect that you'd go back and you'd say, okay, well, I need these files right now, and then the rest I can just download again. So you can definitely get them back. The easiest way, albeit longest, it'll take a little longer, we just download them one more time.
If I want to back up everything, I have to constantly repurchase additional hard drives from them?
No. It'll back up to them unlimited, but I'm saying getting it back, you can just download it again from them automatically. Like you can, the same way you backed it up to them, you could just download it again from them. And like I said, if you wanted it quickly to get all the data back immediately, then yeah, you'd have to purchase it in, they give it in 500 gigabyte chunks or something like that. So that's normally how it works. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin.